If you're watching this video, I've emailed you the rental property summary Excel spreadsheet. And this quick video is going to take you through how to fill this out so you can maximize its value. So let's get started. This first page, as you can see, there's a number of tabs, and we're going to go from left to right. So that's how you should fill it out. You'll see here that it asks if you purchased any new properties. So this would be the case if you either bought properties during the tax year, but also if I haven't prepared your tax return in the past, I won't have your carry forward information for any existing properties, meaning properties you bought in other years. So you could either fill this out, or you could even provide your tax return in prior years, and most of them I'll see that. You'll see that when we go throughout the different tabs that it's very responsive. Responsive meaning that when you fill out one thing, the form sort of populates or self-populates or doesn't. And I'll show you right now what I mean by that. If you say no here, nothing happens, and it's fine. If you say yes, that you did purchase a property or properties during the tax year, you see all this info pops up, okay? And then just follow along. I'm assuming here, or rather, I'm leaving the option that if you bought multiple properties, you would just go through each line, okay? And if you just bought one, then just fill the first line, and that's fine. These are pretty self-explanatory. You know, down here it talks about personal use. If it happens to be that you live in the same property, you're gonna have to estimate the percentage. Also down here, purchase price, closing costs. Closing costs being commissions, legal fees, any costs of obtaining a mortgage, any costs you incur to purchase the property. You could also just throw it in purchase price. It doesn't matter. Separating it, it's always good to have those for your own records, just so you know. Okay, and that's that. Just so this goes along and follows along the bottom, and you'll see it filter through. So I'll show you what I mean. Let's say you lived on 123 Albert Street. Oh, pardon me, Albert Street. You'll see it just down here, just pops up down here, and then enter this and enter all this stuff right here. Okay, and that would be all this info, of course, we need on the return. So that's that. Okay. The second tab, that's where we fill out the rental income. Okay. Again, I'm going to show you how this is responsive, and as a result creates less confusion, and if you're unsure where to fill things out. There's nothing here, but that'll change. Right here it instructs you to start the form, select which method you'll be using. I'm going to go through both so you understand what's best. So let's start with totals. Okay. You see how that populated, that came up. So the totals method, that's what you would use if you know what your total rental income was for the year. You've either summarized it or added it up otherwise, or you have some sort of report or whatnot. So let's say you had one property, you earned $15,000 of rental income. You'd simply go where it says input total, okay, and you'd write 15,000, and that's it, okay. Other income, let's say you have a locker that you rent out in a condo, or let's say you have a parking space you also rent out separately. So you would just type that in here, and maybe it's $1,200, $100 a month, whatever the case may be, and you could just go like that. Also, if you're aware of Excel's power, if you know what it is predictive per month, you could just say $100 times 12, and it's the same. And that's that. Now, let's say instead, I'm going to delete this so we don't create confusion. Let's say instead that you have all your income listed, or you have the invoices or the checks, or you have it on bank statements, but you don't know what the total is. That's when you can use the details method. And the details method, what it does is it calculates the totals for you. Okay. So you'll see once I said totals versus details, different things came up. Okay. And then I'm going to show you again how responsive this is. So your first month's rent is $1,500 maybe, and then boom, it tells you put the next item here. So $1,500. Of course, with the rent, it's kind of easy because usually it's consistent unless you have a rent increase. Okay. Let's say you increased rent to $1,650. You see it it just adds it up here. Okay. Again, if you have other income, put it in here. Okay. And that's that. Okay. And that's how you use. Those are the two methods, and that's how you'd input your income, and that's kind of that. What we're going to start putting next is the expenses. Before we did that. Before we do move on to that though, you should have also received this PDF, and it provides guidance. It's right here. It provides guidance about operating expenses and what you would incur, or what you could record as deductible expenses. Okay. I strongly advise you to go through this and ask any questions. Email me. That's the best way to reach me before you move forward. Okay. This will sort of give you an opportunity to consider things maybe you haven't considered, to get things together, and again, just be fully aware of what's possible for yourself. So operating expenses, it talks about the capital expenditures down here as well. There's also a lot of guidance here with automobile expenses. This may apply to you. Maybe it doesn't, maybe it does. The best thing to do is take a look at this and determine for yourself. Okay, this comes up again in the Excel summary, because I just want I want to make sure that you're clear before you move forward with claiming this. It's a little restrictive, and it's good to have this knowledge before you understand whether it applies to you or not. Okay, I'm going to jump back into the form here. Okay, so we've gone through these first two tabs. Let's go through the expenses tabs. Okay, very similar to what we saw on the income tab, where nothing's here. And again, we just picked a method. It's going to be a little different here because expenses, we kind of have to break it down into category, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So again, let's pick one method. Let's pick the totals method. Okay, and what you have, what's a little different from last time, is you have this row up here with shaded cells, and that has, each of these has a drop down menu of all the potential expenses. Okay, so let's say you had some advertising costs, and then boom, it tells you to input the total, and you would just input the total here. So maybe you had advertising costs of, again, let's assume you have one property, maybe $850, and you just input the total here. Okay, and that's it. And then when you're done, you would go to the next column and say you have office expenses. I mean, that's usually when you have multiple properties, but just for the sake of the example, let's say that's the case. Maybe you have $350 of office expenses, okay, and so on and so forth. And you just keep going down. And if you see down here, there's a bunch of cells, shaded cells, where you can drop down to the appropriate expense item, and then it would just tell you to, as always, tell you where to input it again. So, insurance, and there it goes, okay. Now let's instead, this is the totals method. This is where you know the totals. We talked about that when we were entering the income. Let's instead assume that, you have a pile of bank statements or a pile of invoices and receipts, and you don't know what the totals are. Okay, well in that case, we can just delete all this. These are going to stay here because we overwrote it, but we'll just delete that there. If you instead go up in here and go details, same thing pops up, except it's just a little further down. So let's say advertising, and then exactly like before with the income tab, it's quite responsive. So it's $120 of advertising, maybe another $110, and you just keep going until you've done all your invoices, okay? And then again, there's an entire row of items here. Just pick what's best, what the best category is. Maintenance repairs will probably be a big one if you did a lot of maintenance and repairs, okay? Maybe $40, maybe $500, whatever the case may be, and it'll just total it. And that's sort of that, okay. And that's it. That's how you'd use it, okay. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Again, it's meant to be responsive, so you know where the guide should take you. Now, I'm going to talk briefly about auto expenses. Again, I encourage you to take a look at the PDF, and it's going to give you all the guidance. I won't go through it here. Take a look at it and determine if it does work for you. Now, if it does, if you go to this next tab called Info for Auto, and again, you're going to see the guidance here, okay? Because I really want you to make sure you know what you're talking about. Down below, it's going to ask you, do you use your automobile for rental properties, and refer to above guidance. And if you say no, then that's fine. If you say yes, boom, okay, all this info comes up, and I want you to take a look at this. And you're going to need all this info in here in order to make a claim for auto expenses, okay? And if you say purchase or lease, different items pop up accordingly. Okay, and just follow through. So then there's two aspects to claiming auto expenses. There's all this info we need, and we got to put it in there just like this. You'll see there's a note here. If you've done this last year, I have your information. I just need the 2 kilometers driven inputs, which are down here. Okay. So this is sort of part one. If you decide through the guidance that yes, you know what, auto expenses are applicable for me with respect to rental properties. And then over here, you're going to see something that looks exactly like the operating expenses tab. The only differences I'll show you real quick here is that the categories are different. You see, the expense items are specific to auto expenses. Okay, and you just follow along like you did last time. Pick one of your methods, and then just enter in either the totals or enter in the details. Okay, I won't go through that again. And that's it. Once you do that, and it all flows through okay, I'll see the totals here. Don't worry about that. You've done sort of your part, and the rest is up to me. And hopefully that'll help you get along or get you through this. If you have any questions about this, obviously I've made this template. So shoot me an email. That's the best way to reach me, and I can provide any guidance as necessary.